Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Getting the Right Message to the Right Person at the Right Time, the 5 Innovative Steps to Transform a Library. And we are live today in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are broadcasting live from the Xavier University Center for Innovation, which is perfect because we are talking about how to innovate your library. I am Sarah Jackson from Circle, here ready to help you engage your audience like never before, and I am so excited to have Rachel Folz as my co-host. Welcome, Rachel.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here today.
Rachel, I have really enjoyed working with you, and I know that you are a lover of words. You've been spinning an internet of gold for more than 10 years. You began your career as a web producer in Evansville at the TV station in Indiana, and then you were quickly promoted to digital content director. You had mentioned watching those presidential elections from a very busy newsroom, and then you came to Cincinnati. Yay, welcome. And then you became the content director at Fox 19, our station here, growing all their page views and social relationships beyond their wildest dreams and expectations. But then what's interesting about your career pathway is that you retired from journalism and you find yourself as the very first digital marketing manager for our local library in Campbell County, just right across the river in northern Kentucky. For those of you who are listening all across the country, northern Kentucky is just south, right across the river, kind of a stone's throw away from Cincinnati, Ohio. So tell me quickly, what made you go from, big Fox 19 to the library?
I saw an opportunity to use my powers for good. I felt like I had reached a point in my career that I could do something that really fed my soul and really kept me interested and was a different kind of challenge. I was really interested in the community service and the all the things that libraries provide and the innovation and the information and just the access that libraries are. So I was just really moved. I was raised in libraries and I just thought, what a cool job, to be in charge of that for a library, and what a great opportunity, because I think any library can be extraordinary. And I saw just a great opportunity there, and I'm really glad it's been 2.5 years and it's been a blast.
Well, I am glad that you're here with us today, because I remember when we were talking at lunch the other day, and you inspired me. You had talked about, I want all libraries, from the small to the large, every single one of them can be extraordinary in their own way. And so today, for those, again, of those who you don't know us, we're going to talk a little bit more about our journeys here in the next couple slides. But before we get started, you're really, I know you can't see us, but you're talking to two sort of homegrown gals that just truly are passionate about helping people engage and really be extraordinary. And we were really aligned. So there's going to be some great magic here, great practical steps that you can take today to continue to evolve your strategies. Like I said, this is me, before this is me, we're going to go over a couple housekeeping things here. If you have a question today, we really want this to be interactive. So there's a chat box. Go ahead and type your questions in as you get them. We're also going to have a live question and answer session at the end. Again, we really want this to be interactive, so feel free to jump in. Are we recording this? Yes. Chances are you're going to watch this and you're going to think, I wish my whole team was here to have listened to this. This was so good. Rachel and I joke, this is going to be the first library webinar ever to go viral. So you are going to be part of this, and it's going to be so exciting. So we will email you the link to the recording so you can share it with everyone.
It's going to be like the first time you heard the Beatles.
I know.
It's going to be amazing.
I can't wait. And that's why this is not a typical webinar. Rachel and I were talking here before we went live, and we've attended lots of webinars because we love to learn, and you go through webinars and it's like the 5 secret tips to solve your life's most pressing problem, and you got to go through the whole 2 hours. Just give me the 5 tips right now. So we've structured this webinar so that every single slide is something that you can use. Every single slide is valuable. You don't have to wait till the end to get the gold nugget, at the end of the webinar. Every single point that we're going to make is something that you can use to take back to your executive director, your team, to really give you the answers to the test and to arm you with information to really start that evolution with your team. If you have technical difficulties at any time, jot that number down that's on your screen. We've got our engagement specialist standing by if your screen isn't advancing or if you've got some audio or technical difficulties. And we'd love for you to keep the conversation going via Twitter. I know we'll be live tweeting. Tweet Rachel at Friender Folz. It's going to be fun just to kind of keep it going and get the buzz going about libraries. So this is me. My name again is Sarah. And I have worked in several different places with journeys. I always share this so that people know, hey, I feel your pain. I used to work for our local Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce here, and then I hopped to the NFL. I worked for the Cincinnati Bengals and did game day entertainment and marketing and lots of fun stuff there. And then I went to our local sewer district. I worked for a public utility, which was awesome, working in the environmental world, and then worked as the business liaison for our school district here, the 5th largest in the Commonwealth. And I share this because all the hats, much like Rachel, we're going to see her journey here in a second, have all required to how do you engage an audience. And so this is something that I have thought about my whole life, every day, 25 hours a day. So I always like to share sort of, hey, where we're coming from, and I've sat in similar seats. And Rachel, our expert guest, you also were at the Chamber of Commerce. You're now the committee chair for the PR and Communication Committee, which is amazing. And again, with your news background and media background, I love that we have this expert now to impart your knowledge to libraries from all over the country to really help them to innovate. So off we go. What is the problem that we are discussing today? Let's talk about this, which I didn't realize this, Rachel, with libraries, that there's a big transition going on, especially with sort of the general public thinking that libraries are out of date. Because do people read books anymore?
Oh my gosh, they read so many books, and I'm so glad they do. We're trying, and that's an interesting thing that you bring up. I mean, it happens to be at a barbecue, like, what do you mean libraries? I'm like, and then 6 people come to, they're like, libraries are amazing, they do everything. I'm like, thank you, people, I love you. But we're trying to serve all these different audiences. We're trying to get with people from the birth and through infancy, toddlers, kids, young adults, and those young adults are getting lost in the shuffle, and we're trying to bring them back into libraries into when they become parents, all the way through middle age and on into seniors. We want libraries to be a part of their life all the way through.
All right, and I hear that you don't show off enough. Tell me about that.
It's not in library culture to be show-offy, and I think that is a challenge to effective marketing communication. Libraries sometimes are just apologizing for their mere existence, and I think that needs to end. What we do is great, it's proud, it's worthy. So we have a lot to brag about, but sometimes our libraries just don't know how to brag on themselves.
I think you're right. I think the show off, that's interesting that you say that, because out of any nonprofit that anybody would ever think about, everybody knows their library. Right. And when you were a little kid, you always went to the library. Mm-hmm. So there is that emotional connection that we all have. So right. I can't wait to see all of your slides of how to get that stirred up in the hearts of people that might have forgotten about their library. And the last one blows my mind. How ironic is this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, how and where is tough. Sometimes our library websites weren't set up for storytelling. You don't feel like you have the time or the ability. Maybe your staffing's not just right. There's sometimes you want things to be just perfect before you do that, and you're not sure if your audience cares. I'm here to tell you that they care very, very much. They love hearing from you. They're hungry for this content. They want to know what's happening, what events you have, what services you provide. They're constantly excited by all the things that we do. We take them for granted in libraries that we're just everywhere doing all these things. People are shocked by what we're able to do. And I think that that's a great chance to tell a story.
Yes. So I can't wait to hear. You're going to just jump in here. Again, all of these slides to give everybody the answers to the test, to really show people how libraries can really share and tell their own story. So with that, let's jump into all of your amazing insights, and we're going to start with pictures.
Yeah, so in this section, we're going to really talk about how to get your site, your emails, your social networking looking beautiful by getting your image game up to speed, because we could all be a lot better there. So you always want to look your best. What you're seeing here is a Facebook post, the actual blog on our site, and a PowerPoint presentation that runs behind our circulation desk. You see that on every single channel, the image looks exactly the same. We want people to see that message frequency. We want them to start with the photos and graphics. We want them all to look great on every single of their channels, on every single screen. Everywhere we put that graphic, we want it to be beautiful. We don't want to see any odd crops. So not only is it pretty, but it's more effective that way. And with your marketing message, your audience is hearing so much all of the time. We want them to, see that over and over again to get that this message is for them.
Okay, great. Now, I know some people are emailing us about the audio, so I want to make sure that we can, everybody can still hear you. So if you are struggling to hear, again, keep texting or keep chatting with us. We want to make sure that everybody can hear everything that Rachel is saying. So now we're talking about that consistency with all of the photos. All right, let's talk about where to start with, with this whole photo thing, because it is a bit of a mystery to folks.
It is. Yeah, if you're going to have compelling content, you're going to need good imagery, and that's period. You have a great opportunity to take photos. You go to your programs, you visit your friend's book sale, you go to major events, you get out into the community. Let's take photos of those. You get a library of images on your computer of frequent repeat performers. If you have a magician that comes every May, you need a good picture of that magician that comes every May. And this is really going to help future you. Future you is super happy that you really went all out and took a lot of photos of that magician, so you don't end up just using the old rabbit in a hat tap thing. You're over it. You can do better than that.
Got it. All right, next one.
Well, speaking of that rabbit in a hat, you're probably going to want a good stock photo service. For a lot of us, money is a problem, and that's cool. Clip art is so incredibly inexpensive. It's a great place to start if you're just getting a stock photo service for the first time. Don't be kind of fooled by that clip art. It's not just graphics like that. They also have a large library of photographs, which is what I use on our website. For things that are a little fancier, you can go to 123RF or ThinkStock. They have a credit system where you buy a certain number of credits. We use a lot of that in our newsletter. That's a finer stock photo service.
All right, let's talk about sizing. This is always a mystery.
Yes. So after many, many years, like 10, like maybe I started the first Facebook page, I've learned that 1600 by 900 seems to be that magic place to start to make a template for what it looks like on your website, what it's going to look like on Twitter, what it's going to look like as a Facebook cover photo, what it's going to look like on Facebook as an article. You start with that size, and that really, you can make a template with lines showing where those crops, so you can make sure that it's being seen everywhere that you want it to, so your message doesn't get lost.
Rachel, I love this template idea, and I think you shared this actually with me. And I thought that everybody, stays till the end. Maybe you'd be willing to share that easy template. We could email it out to everyone so you could see what Rachel is talking about. We had a question come in that, that people love the idea of photos, but it's really difficult to ensure that you have everyone's parental permission for minors. Have you dealt with that, or what are some tips for that?
So we have a couple different ways that we handle that. If the parents are with them, I will approach the parents and say, is it okay if I take a picture of your child for our website? If the parents aren't there, in the case of teen programs, like for instance the lock-in I was talking about earlier, when they sign up for the lock-in, we send them with a photo release form that needs to return, clicked or unclicked, just basically saying yes or no, we can take pictures of you. So we have those on file.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go to the next thing, really learning about knowing your audience.
Yes, and you really should know your audience. You've got a lot out there to learn, and there's a lot of opportunities that you may not be taking advantage of because you feel a little unsure in data. You've got all this data. You don't need to be afraid to dig into that to see where the content opportunities might be hiding. There's a lot of different data services like within the things that you already have. So for instance, Facebook, Pinterest, Circle, which we're talking about today, and Twitter all have great data insights that will give you a clearer picture of who you're talking to. Data is really currency for your content. It helps you tell stories and figure out what people are actually interested in instead of kind of guessing in the dark about what you think people might be interested in. So we're going to think about that with an example. Data's a little dry for some folks, and I get that. It's always helped me to paint a picture of who I'm talking to. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Mary. This is Mary. My Facebook Insights showed me that my content was most popular with women 25 to 44 who lived in the suburban part of my county. So Mary's 36. She is not a real person. She's a stock photo person. She lives in Fort Thomas. And Fort Thomas is an affluent, kind of education-focused suburb of Cincinnati, maybe 5 miles from the bridge. So when I'm posting Facebook content, I know I'm talking just to Mary. Now, not all content that I post is about us, and I really would advise you to avoid just always posting about yourself. You need to give them a little bit more meat. You need to give them more interesting articles that relate to your library, be it Bookless from BuzzFeed or GIFs or things that are fandoms. Fandoms are really huge. I mean, my collection of Harry Potter memes is just on point. It's beautiful. And I can call to it time and time again. People love that Potter content. So when I'm interneting and I'm out searching for great content on other websites, I'm trying to find content for Mary. And I'm thinking about her. I want my content to feel right and to feel comfortable and to feel like she wants to share it. You know, I want her to feel like I'm talking to her because I am. I want my content to feel relevant to her life and her social network. Mary likes to inform. Mary has a lot of parent friends. Mary wants to tell people that she's going to see The Little Mermaid this Saturday, and do you want to come with her? So we're thinking about Mary's lifestyle. So if anything in your library compels you to say, wow, or, oh, Mary's going to like that. And a lot of other people are going to like that too. And that's why we're always thinking those stories, because they really enrich our content.
Well, I love this idea about actually putting an age and a name. We do this at Circle when we're thinking about all of the people that we're talking to. So also, what are their pain points, right? So
Right.
that it really adds that voice and that emotional connection, I think, that we're talking about, and tapping into that and stirring that back up with people when they think about their library. So I love this idea.
Yeah, I want Mary to feel like she's a part of our library family. You know, she's informed, she's connected, and she's a walking spokesperson. She's involved with her library, and she loves us. She loves us enough to like us. And so I want her to have good stuff to say when she's out talking about us.
All right, next thing. Let's talk about this, Rachel. I
Man,
love
they
this.
really do. And that dog is both a gentleman and a dog, which I like. Stylish. He's a dog about town. I don't want you to ever miss a chance to personalize, and I want to give you kind of my quick tips on how to get that personalization as part of your personal culture. I think the first thing that you should know is that consistency really does build brands. You're trying to increase that message frequency. So that doesn't mean just posting the same thing over and over again, but little things like making sure to use the same colors when possible. Colors are really key, and that's kind of the internet language of what you're on. So right now, you're looking at a Circle slideshow, of course, and you'll look, and that hex color 39B FCA is Circle's hex color, and you'll notice that that's all over it. If you go to any of my Twitter, my Tumblr, our website, we have 2 hex colors that we use over and over and over again. We want people to feel like they're on our library's website, on our ILS, and on our Circle, as a matter of fact, as well.
So if you're sitting in the audience right now and you're saying, what is a hex color?
Yes.
This is a flag to say, all right, I need to know it. I need to write it on a Post-it note and stick it on my computer screen. This is why I love the hometown crowd here. So these are easy, quick things that you can do to really start putting that polish on, right, for the brand and to build that consistency.
Right, because your ILS, a lot of them are out of the box, and so they don't have that personalization piece, and it can feel a little insurmountable to think about changing your ILS, but it's an amazing opportunity to bring it over from just your library's website into the catalog search. And I know you're not a library person, that's an integrated library system.
I was just going to say, I don't know what it means, but I'm sure the people in the audience do. We're going to go with it.
So, you know, you want to make sure your profile photo looks good, and you should look at your profile photos. Are you changing them? You know, if your logo is long, it's not going to look good on your digital platforms. That was great when we were all banner crazy circa 2003, but it's not like that anymore. We're all about the circle or the square. So you want to consider making it circle or square next time you get a logo. And you don't want it to be pixelated. You want it to be beautiful and rich and, you know, stealable if somebody wants it.
The other platform, I don't know if you ever use, is Canva. Do you ever use that?
Yeah.
Canva is a good platform, again, if you're lacking that graphic design wizardry, to check that out as well.
Man, you stole one of my things. We're going to talk about that later. Well, now that people know. Oh, man. Well, they're going to leave.
They're not going to leave because they got to stay till the end to get your beautiful
That's
template.
Right.
And we know if you leave, so don't leave.
So, all this is about the C word, which is content. And there's so many things that we do that people don't know about. We need to embrace that goodwill and open your eyes to the information that your library should be sharing. Once again, you got to learn how to brag, even if it's a humble brag. So you got to learn it. So the first thing you want to do is learn how to tell those stories. So what is a library story? It might not be, hey, we got some books in, you want to check them out? No, it's more than that, although puns are very welcome. So here's some recent ways that I've told a library story. Yesterday, what I worked on was an infographic about our summer reading kickoff that kind of showed how many kids signed up and what that means to the community, and how many teenagers signed up and what that means to the community. Very simple. That data was already in-house, but I took that data and made it visual, which makes it shareable both for our staff and our patrons. So
now, if somebody wanted to see that kind of and use the case theory, copy and steal everything, right? Because libraries, you guys are all play nice. You
Yes,
share
we do.
stuff, right? So where can they go see that example?
So that's on our website, cc-pl.org, and it's actually the first blog right now. I think it's called Summer Reading by the Numbers.
Okay, we'll make a note to put a link to that in our
Perfect.
follow-up email. Fantastic.
And that was made in Pictochart, another free service that isn't mentioned in this, so I don't have to steal my future thunder. But, Pictochart makes data visualization very easy. Another thing, I take every single story that's in our monthly newsletter and I make sure that gets on our blog. And that may seem very elementary in some ways, but a lot of times those stories were just printing and disappearing. And they weren't making it all the way to digital where they could live for a longer time and be more syndicated and shareable.
Gotcha. So trying to turning it into evergreen type material.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And just in that, and plus we can link people to the services that we're talking about. It becomes a more complete experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's also upping our newsletter signups. So I would love to read stories like that in my inbox.
That's right.
Yeah, so it all comes back together.
It all comes full circle.
It does. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so patron stories. We just went through a strategic 5-year plan, and a lot of you, I'm sure, have gone through these things before. One thing that came out of this that really opened our eyes was that we need to learn how to tell the library story through the eyes of our patrons' benefit from being library patrons. So the guy you're seeing here, this is Charles. Charles is incidentally from Fort Thomas. It's all about the fort today.
I wonder if he knows Mary.
I bet he does. He's a man about town. And he's a freelance video photographer. He does a lot of, you can see him here, he's at the ballpark and he shoots video. He uses our Wi-Fi to upload his productions to his clients. He tweeted his satisfaction basically saying, would have taken me hours at home, it only took me 30 minutes, I love my library. We took that tweet and we contacted Charles, interviewed him, and Charles is on the cover of our June newsletter.
That's fantastic.
So he's thrilled. He's tweeting about it. We have all this goodwill that built up. But really what this is, at its base, is a story about our Wi-Fi and the speed of our Wi-Fi. But instead, it's a story about Charles. So it's sneaky. We're sneaking in there.
Well, you're showing, not telling.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love the whole show, not tell. So keep going. I love this stuff.
So we also did a story about Teen Summer Lock-In Confidential. For 2 reasons. We knew that the parents were going to be the one reading the newsletter, but also the teenagers wrote the story about what really happens at our summer lock-in, which is a lot of Magic the Gathering, but that's beside the point. So these lovely teenagers wrote this story about, how they enjoy the games and the food, and it really meant to bring new kids into our lock-in, to let parents know that it's cool. But also it was a goodwill opportunity, so those kids are sharing it with their people who are so hard to reach. Another idea that we had was we had an opera wrap, which is where the director of the opera comes and explains an upcoming opera performance. A local gal is their PR person, so she wrote us 6 reasons to try opera. And so those are new content opportunities that are shareable. That was tweeted to all the Cincinnati Opera's followers. So our content went one step further, and it's shareable, and it's interesting, and it's not what people think of when they think of a library.
Very
all this
strategic,
stuff.
yes. And also to have that strategic connection. Everybody wants to have their brand next to the opera too.
Yes.
I think certainly the types of patrons, I think that would resonate. Yeah, would imagine that would resonate really well with them.
And we have a lot of social capital that we're not really realizing that libraries give good feelings. People, other businesses and organizations want to be aligned with us. They want our content. They're interested in being a part of what we do. There's no ill will about libraries.
Yes.
So that's
Everybody
wonderful.
loves the library.
Everybody loves the library.
All right, let's talk about Bookless.
Yes. So I know you guys know a lot about books. You've been known to read a few. I've been known to read like 6 this month. So you have a lot of opportunity to make Bookless easy. I mean, just easy content sitting out there. People love it. One thing that's very, very popular at our library is we go through our ILS and we look at the most checked out books in fiction and nonfiction for the year. And we make lists. People are so nosy about what their neighbors are reading. And I think that that is really great content. People love it. Waiting on a hot title. So for instance, if you've got a waiting list a mile long for Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld, maybe you would suggest that they read all the Jane Austens or some of her past work or something by, Maggie Shipstead, like a relevant artist that you know that you have in the house and ready to check out, because we want people to touch the books and take them home and love them.
Got it.
So mysteries, books coming to the big screen, that content is just out there. You just need to take it, pull it, and put it together in a way that makes you feel good.
Love it.
I think libraries are constantly adding new things, little things, big things, all the things. People want to know about them. So if you're building or renovating or just moving things around like shelving, you should be telling your digital audience. What you're seeing here is our new president's room. It's in the basement of one of our existing buildings, so it was a sketchy basement that really was a little murdery. And so they renovated it so beautifully. I mean, it was just such an amazing job, and now we have a new space to host larger groups. So we wrote about that, and people are so excited about it. So now they know that we have that we have new features. When we did our app, when we do updates to our app, when we have summer reading, we're always thinking about ways to tell that story a different way. So extra points, if your change, like the president's room you see here, was brought on by the need to solve an audience problem, which in this case it was. People were so hungry for meeting space and we were always so booked that we gave them another opportunity, and this one gets booked fast too.
Another way you're providing that value. And
Absolutely.
I could just hear all those Campbell County folks out there in the county. We got a new this that instills pride within their library. Love it.
Lovely. So policies aren't known for their sexiness, obviously, but when we change policies, we need to let people know. Recently, we had a change where we dropped our fines to 10 cents a day, and we made sure to write about that, make sure people understood how that affects them. When you add new forms, your information about your hours and your closings, if you're closed for a holiday, you need to let people know about that. And those are easy ways to add content. Innovation. So if you're branching out or trying something new, attempting to reach a new audience, like we've been attempting to really get in with the deaf community. And so we're constantly telling them about our in-touch video phones and our deaf crafting hour and deaf movie. So we're always adding and innovating. People want to know new computers, new kid stuff, story time ideas. Anything that your system adds that's fresh to you, you should be telling people about.
And that would enhance anybody's brand.
Absolutely.
And add that the library isn't just the old library we thought of when we were kids. It's now has evolved and changed, with us.
And you've got to realize that people are moving in and out of your area. A lot of times you think because you're static in your area that other people are, but people are constantly being introduced to our areas or, coming back through on a life cycle, and they don't know about what we are today. So we need to have a lot of information available about what we are.
Got it.
And what we aren't. New staff. I mean, if you add someone new and they're a programmer or a circulation supervisor, why not profile them on your website? Why not introduce people to a new smiling face that they might develop a relationship with? Because, people love their librarians. Think about the same thing for retirements or, someone's moving to a new position. It also builds morale. It's good for your organization. They feel special and honored to be, talked about in the blog. Now, of course, if they say no, then whatever, who cares? But, but if they say yes, tell them to put their face on, we'll take a good picture. And we'll talk about what's interesting to them and what their life has been like and things like that.
It gives that full personality to your library.
And that your library is people. What's up with that person lurking in the back over her shoulder?
I know, that is creepy. Yeah, what is going on?
I don't know. There's a frost off that gaze.
You need to tell Mary to be warned.
Mary, he's watching.
What is going on?
And for those of you, it's over the right shoulder if you're looking at her. There's a child.
Is this a stock photo from one of your famous?
This is not my branch.
Oh.
This is a mystery library lady.
Okay.
But she looks like she works with me.
Maybe they're on the call today.
Yeah,
That's
I hope
neat.
so. Watch your back. So it's nice. It's a morale booster. It's easy. You interview them, and plus you get to know them. If they're new to the organization, I learned about their family and their relationships and why they moved to Cincinnati. So there's a lot of good stuff there. Okay, so you might not have it just yet, but you need to get your toolbox right. I know this all sounds great, and it sounds like, oh yeah, we should do this, but you might not have yourself set up to be so content focused. You might not have everything you need to tell these stories. So you might be listening to this and think, well, that sounds wonderful, but what am I supposed to do?
Right.
We don't have any money. We don't have any time, that kind of thing. So you're going to need some tools, and I'm going to share my all-time favorites with you.
Okay, here we go. And is this going to be in a blog post later? It sounds bloggy-ish.
Does it sound bloggy? Well, you have to email them the link to the
Okay.
slides.
All right, we're gonna do it and eat our own dog food here. Let's go.
All right. So any of you who might have seen my presentation at KPLA might have seen my love letter to Buffer, but I'm going to lay it down for you. I've been serious about Buffer for 4+ years. Buffer is by far the best social media scheduling tool I've found. It's free to start, which I think is really key. I used the free version for 1.5 years before upgrading this year for $100, which was the nonprofit half price. Buffer is browser-based. That means that I'm out there interneting and I can share instantly from my browser. From that browser, I can choose to share it now, share it next, or share it in the queue, and it just goes below. Did you have a question? You got excited?
I know. I was just flexing because I'm like, this is exciting.
Okay.
Keep going.
So you can link your accounts. You choose a schedule, or you can schedule on the fly. It automatically queues the post, so you can choose all that. The interface is beautiful. It's very drag and drop, very simple. Buffer's so big on data, so their optimal timing tool is really super cool. It shows you when your posts are most engaged with, so that helps you. So you can instantly, by using that optimal timing tool, which is available on the free version, you select that, it shows you the high points, no matter how many times you want to post, and you can decide your schedule. So you don't have to just guess or, go off that 1-year-old Mashable article that your director had in the bottom drawer of their desk. Like, don't live like that.
I love taking out the guesswork.
You just don't. And so it's wonderful. And it's automated. So I would highly suggest it.
All right, next one.
So Pablo's Buffer's Artie cousin. They're made by the same people. This is a quick and dirty web tool for making beautiful quotes. So just copy the quote, paste it, and select the image from a vast library of compelling pictures. You can even make it blurry, sharp. You can do what you want to there. It'll spit out the right size for Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and you can even put your logo on that bad boy. It will take you 4 minutes.
Nice. It's going to make them look like rock stars.
I know, you just look so fancy, and people are like, ooh, that's classy.
I love it.
Yeah, they're really excited about it.
Okay. All right. We ready for the next
I am.
one?
Let's do
Okay.
it. So photo editing, old Thunder Stealer over here. So I would strongly suggest Photoshop. Photoshop is only $27 from TechSoup for Photoshop Elements. If you're not really sure about it, if you haven't done it before, you can take a free class through Gale Courses or Allison or any of your standard library online classes tools. It's completely worth it. If you don't have some form of Photoshop, it's definitely something you need. So even those of us who were not blessed with the voodoo, a class can show you additional things, so there's a lot to learn there. So you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you don't want to do that. Try Pixlr, Photo, and Canva. You might find a new tool, look to explore, you keep the look fresh. All of them kind of offer different things, so I would explore with those what you have and what you want to do.
The other thing sometimes that we do, again, I would imagine that some people sitting in the audience wear a lot of different hats. That,
Yes.
Are libraries sort of 1-2-man bands, or they have, like, what's the trend now? Is that typical in libraries, Rachel, where you've got small staff?
Yes, you have very small administrative staff, and I think a lot of that is great, but a lot of times, like the work that I do might fall under public relations, or it's an add-on, so it never really, no one takes the ownership of it.
Got it.
to make it go and make it do and make it as beautiful as it could be. But the time is now to take ownership of that and to be your best possible self in this way. I think that there's a lot that people want to hear from us that we're just not telling them, and we need to do it.
Yes. Well, and this is a great, I think, if you don't have time to sort of get in here and play, a great intern project too, right? To
Yes.
figure out how this works, come back and tell me. I know we do that a lot of times, with our interns, like, hey, can you help me figure this out? So to really think about, how do I actually get this stuff done? So,
Right.
all right, what's our next thing?
So, coming from for-profit where you had all of this weight with your vendors. You know, your vendors were there to help you. Your vendors knew that you could leave. Your vendors kind of kissed up to you a lot. It's been really shocking that our vendors sometimes in libraries are very uncustomer focused. So with libraries, many of the standard vendors have become really complacent and really refuse to innovate and solve the problems that we're having now. They talk about things that are happening 5 years from now. You're like, but that doesn't help me today. So our relationship that we've had with you guys has been like a breath of fresh air. You guys respond to our emails, which has been really nice.
I didn't know the bar was that low, Rachel. That's sad.
It really is that low. I'm like, oh, today? You're going to respond today, not 3 weeks from now? Suggestions for improvements have been implemented. You know, you guys seem excited to kind of go with the flow, and your platform continues to evolve with us. But, you know, a lot of you guys probably are wondering what Circle is. It's not a secret. It's our email provider. What they do for us is provide newsletter content distribution, kind of like Constant Contact did for us, but this is so much better because it's automated and it's getting the right content to the right people at the right time. So what you're seeing here is our subject line that you would get in your inbox. People are going to choose tags, and that's going to populate the email. They're going to get it at a pace that they want it, and the emails look beautiful. They're personalized, and this is one that would have been sent out right before summer reading kickoff. And that's content that I already created that I did not have to put into a separate thing. It was already there, queued up, and ready to party for people who were interested in this. So that's been really cool.
Great. Well, we both have loved this partnership, and we view all of our folks that we work with because it is, you live and breathe in that world. So if we can help you innovate and get behind you, it's just been fun to kind of go down that road and to tap. To get our toes in the library world. I didn't know how competitive you guys were.
We will cut you.
Well, let's talk about Circle, and let's talk about the newsletter. So this, I think it's important before we go down the road to really talk about your newsletter. I know that the majority of libraries are probably sending out newsletters to their patrons. Rachel, I know that, that you did for a long time before you met us. This is a newsletter that I got from Party City. I love Party City, but I have 7 and 9-year-old girls, and this is all about baseball, so it doesn't really resonate with me. Here's another newsletter that I got in my inbox the other day. And the big aha moment when the Circle team was really thinking about this was when we saw this. This is a newsletter from over 150 years ago. And so when we were talking about transformation, and you said libraries are trying to evolve and transform, it's crazy because we are still communicating the way we have from 150 years ago. I mean, those two newsletters side by side are virtually the same. Yeah, they've had some, photos, but really they're identical. So this was the big cold glass of water to the face of why your open rates might not be above 20%. So I think now we're going to really start to transition into some slides that give you the why behind what's going on with your audience. It's not you, it's them kind of thing. I feel like I'm, in a breakup here. It's really not you. It is that your audience has changed. So what's happening is we used to be in this type of situation where you really have one expert and you're pushing out your agenda, your events, your messages, what your needs. And you talked about this with it's kind of one-sided, right? What we've tried to do is now combat this I just didn't know. So you're producing all of this great stuff, and I know we even talked about this, and you're putting it all out there, and you still see a patron like, Bob, why didn't you come to the Harry Potter Wizard Night, right? Yeah. And you get this, I just didn't know you guys were doing that. I just didn't know the library had meeting space. I didn't know we had free Wi-Fi. I didn't know. How did these people not know this? You've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you've got a bajillion different communication channels. How do we really take that and engage them in a way where they do know? So what we started to think about was, how do we build a platform that makes all of this easy? Because you can read blog post that will say, here's how to double your open rate, and we can go over, you can always be testing subject lines, but really, if there's a 2-man band at a library, who's going to be doing that? Yeah. So we really thought about how do we build something that can automate all of these things that we're talking about today. So instead of this communication method, which gives people access to information, we want to flip it. And we want to give access to information that your patrons want. So this whole personalization idea that Rachel's been talking about is what we're focused on, particularly in the email newsletter sector of your life. So this is going to complement all of the strategies that Rachel's been using, and we're going to talk about that throughout this. So we take all that amazing content that she was talking about. She's blogging, she's posting on Twitter, she's got Facebook, YouTube, all of the great stuff that you're doing. We're going to take it and we're going to grab it. Now, there's some libraries that we talk to and organizations, they hate their content management system, and that's totally fine. You can use ours. You can post it directly to Circle, or if you've already invested in content management systems, great, we're going to grab it. And then what we do, where the magic really starts to happen, is we take each one of those individual posts and stories and we figure out, what is this about? And then we cross-reference that with the interest of your audience. And I'm going to show you how we're going to go grab the interest of all of the Marys and what was the other guy? The guy Charles of the Marys and Charles of the worlds. Okay, so we've got your content, we've got it tagged, it's sitting up in the content cloud. Now this becomes one of 6 pieces of information that really start to fuel this personalization engine, all on the back end, all for you, all automatically. So we're going to ask your patrons, what do you care about? What were some of the topics? You can pick up to 20 topics. Rachel, what were some topics that you picked for your audience?
So we picked our branches because we only have 3. We picked children and adults, community, history was a very popular one. And that helped inform us.
So we're going to show you how this flow works in a bit, but when they're imported in, we immediately start to learn about your library. And this is where this can help your brand. We care about you. We want to give you the content that you want. And then we ask, when do you want it? So instead of Googling, when's the best time to send out an e-newsletter, right? This changes all the time. We just put that power in the hands of your patron. You still have the control to send things when you want, but generally if I want it at 8 a.m. and Rachel's a night owl and she wants it at 11 p.m., she can make that choice. And then we ask them the format. So I would imagine, and we talked about sort of the life cycle of a patron, where from the young to the old, the north of the baby boomer, we've considered that. That baby boomer is going to want that traditionally laid out newsletter. That millennial might just want the headlines. The point is they get to pick the format of how it arrives. And then we've got this machine learning on the back end. Your patrons may not have said, I want stuff on teen programming, but everything they're reading is all about your teen programming. So our site is going to know we need to continue to order up stories for that patron on teen programming because that's what they like. And then they can follow certain people, so different staff members that you might have. This may or may not be relevant, but you can certainly follow certain staff members if you want it to look that way. So this is how the flow works. You are imported in. Hey, what do you care about? I actually think this is probably a screenshot from yours. Yeah, these are the topics, and I can pick which ones I like. And then what schedule works best for you. So Rachel has set her default of it going out bi-weekly, but if I want to get it daily because I really want to know everything that's going on, I'm new to the area, I can make that happen for myself if I want that. And then what style? Again, Rachel gets to pick the default, but if I want to change that and I want just the headlines, I can change that if I want. And then now you can share it and spread it to everyone. This really capitalizes on all those social networks of your patrons. So if Rachel's putting something out about the teen programming, I can just share that one piece of information to my network. And this will really help grow your list. So this is what they see. Again, I get my news from the Campbell County Public Library. These are the things that I love. Every subject line is now personalized. You don't have to do any A/B testing or figure that out. And I get my newsletter of what I want in my newsletter. I have kids, so of course, those are the stories that end up first in my newsletter because that's what I chose that I wanted to get from Rachel. So this engagement loop really will help your library transition from sort of being just a you're sort of distributing information and communication to engagement. That's really where you want your library and your transition to evolve to. So our platform helps to continually be listening to your audience and then responding and personalizing and customizing that experience on your behalf. We work a lot also with universities. This is actually screenshots from Xavier. So you can see the first kid is interested in innovation, history, and he wants to follow this Professor Gary. But you've got the second woman who likes 3D printing. And if you lean into your screen, you can see that the first story for her is second for the first guy. So you see that? That's because we want her to listen. We want to rebuild that trust with your audience so that everything I get now from my Campbell County Public Library, I know is going to be something that's meaningful to me, that's a benefit to me. And that really enhances that value proposition that everything, it's like a Christmas gift or a holiday gift.
It is.
Every time I get something from Rachel, I know it's going to be something that is meaningful. So this helps get your audience listening. And then when you really have something that you want everybody to see, you can still push stuff, in that. And I know you've done that too with events and things.
Yeah, because we can add events, like things that don't require registration oftentimes, or large community events will invite people on Circle just to make sure that that gets another place. We also use the needs function to tell people, like, we want their sports photos for a Smithsonian exhibition, or we need toilet paper rolls for a kids program. So, we know that if we're trying to reach out to people, it's just another channel.
Yes.
And it's very effective.
Yes, you can post updates, needs, and events. This is big. I know this is important, especially for people like me, completely OCD. You still have all the control. The other thing is that all of the technology is responsive, so that no matter if you've got that baby boomer open it up on their tablet or the millennial open it up on their mobile device, it's all going to look really good. It's not going to look wonky on their mobile devices. So what happens in the power of this is you may only have a couple pieces of information about your patrons. Email address, first name, last name. Now we fill in the rest of that picture for your audience. And if you have a backend system, I don't know if this would be relevant for libraries or not, but we can integrate with, if you're using sort of a backend system where you're kind of keeping information on all your patrons. So the power of this is that email list. Again, we're talking about evolution and transitioning and really transforming your library. Even your email list is now transformed into this really rich asset database. So like Rachel was saying, hey, we might need a speaker for your history program. She can now search in her audience who is everybody that loves history and either invite them to the event, or there might be a patron that could speak on that event. You might have a historical expert or a Civil War expert. So this is another way to really tap into the assets of your patrons and to really figure out what events would resonate with them and to get those people, again, the right message and the right content at the right time and engage them where their passion and their interest lie. So we've given great insights. Again, I know I've talked with Rachel a lot about this, about even data. I mean, sometimes you'll get data, but you might not even have time to sift through it. It's tough to have the time to figure out, hey, what are we doing and how is this working? So we just basically give you the answers to the test. So each thing that you're going to post, we're going to give it an engagement score. We have a cheat sheet on our dashboards that will show you, here are the top 5 things that are trending in your audience. And here's the things that you talked about that everybody loved, but you need to talk about in 30 days. And I know you've looked at this again to even figure out, hey, what could we maybe put on Facebook or some of your other publications that you used. And we're also going to show you who is the most engaged, but more importantly, who's the least engaged and what are these people's interests, so that you know what to be producing, you know what content is resonating, and you know what's not resonating.
Right, because it's a content gap. You've got people who are engaged enough to say, I want your information, but you're not reaching them. So what are you missing?
Yeah. We hope make that easy on these really, you don't need a degree in Google Analytics to look at the dashboard. We've done several different case studies. Again, I mentioned Xavier because when we were talking, Rachel, we talked about that gap, and I didn't think about this. When you were a little kid, you loved the library, but you're missing then, what was the age that you were saying when they turn that you're missing the millennial age group?
I would say 17 to probably 28 is
Okay.
a challenge.
Got it.
Yep.
So we've done a lot of work with that age group, and I know that Xavier was concerned. Like, what happens when these kids graduate? They've got, on average, $35,000 worth of college debt. What are we going to say to these kids? We're not going to, sure as heck, not going to ask them for an alumni donation. So
Right.
they were concerned about how do we engage these most recent alums. They were on Constant Contact. Their open rate was 19, and now with being on Circle, they're always at about above a 50%. And we really wanted to see the click-through because you can sort of trick people to open your email with that personalized subject line, but are they really engaging with the content? So now they're at a 12%. And on average, all of our circles are hovering around a 22% click-through rate, which I know you said click-through rates were really important for you. The national average is 2.9. So I always tell folks that when if you decide to use Circle or not, and here's some of our average rates here, that click-through rate is huge, and it really shows that personalization is really the trend and where things are going, and that it works. So using Rachel's tips is going to help you with that. If you choose to use Circle, we're going to help you with that. But whether you choose to use our tool or not, you really need to think about that personalization trend and how to use that as part of your transformation strategy of your library. This may or may not be relevant for libraries.
Depends.
So we've thought of this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but now that you have open rates that are above, the normal average, you've got something that every corporate business partner wants, and that is an engaged audience. So we've got this digital sponsorship feature where you can have your business partners. I know some of them partners might be sponsoring certain exhibits at your library. This is a way to really, again, transform your library into a smart business partner, to be business friendly, and to really provide value for your partners. And that revenue that they're going to spend to sponsor your newsletter, because like Rachel said, people want their brand to be adjacent and associated with the library. That revenue can now go back to fund even greater programming in your library. All of that goes back to you. How easy is it? Rachel, I don't know if you want to talk about this because you were on Constant Contact, right?
It was like I was going to run out of Constant Contact. I had like 2 weeks left, and we launched on time and with plenty of time to spare. The actual onboarding process, the documentation was super easy to use. Send me this, this, and this, and then you guys whoopity-whooped it, and then it was done. I mean, it was crazy. It was one day, I think, of actual work.
Well, we want to save you time. We want to save you less work. You never have to design another newsletter again.
Oh my gosh, it's been wonderful. And it's really liberated me to make better content for the newsletter because I'm not regurgitating it in just this link, check this spelling. That's already been done. There's no reason to do it again.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yay.
I'm glad that you like our partnership. I always like to throw, again, industry news and knowledge. Personalization is really the way that things are going. We've just tried to think about, like I said, the folks that are sitting in your seat, how do we make it easy? How do we build something that really just takes care of it and takes out the guesswork for you? So the way that we work is, and we've learned this, again, with Rachel, I know that there's sort of this, you talked about this vendor relationship and how libraries have been burned.
Yes.
And we consider that even in the way that we operate. We know that people sort of are risk averse to try new technology. So even like in this webinar, I want to have every slide be valuable. Even every step of the way when we're working with you, we offer, let's test it. Let's make sure you love it. If there's something that you don't like, I know you've even suggested platform changes, and we're like, tell us. Yes, we want to know what you like. Help us help you, kind of Jerry Maguire that, you know? So even in our test, you can test it and we can help you. And even every step of the way, we even try to help you capitalize on your test. If there are patrons that maybe are influencers, to even be strategic, because for you to say we want to test this platform that really personalizes the content, just by saying that shows your patrons that you are innovating and that you are on that road to transformation. So you could even benefit from even doing a test, of our platform. But I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. We've been receiving questions sort of throughout the webinar, and I'm going to read some of them. The way that we do questions here in our webinars is it's sort of like when you were in 3rd grade and you raised your hand and you were afraid that you were going to ask the dumb question, and the teachers would always say, there are no dumb questions. But in your heart, you knew, like, I don't know if I really want to ask that. You can ask the question, and it will not appear live, although we do read the question for the benefit of the entire audience. So at this time, with the little time that we do have left, we're going to be taking some questions. So if your library, and Rachel, again, jump in here with me.
Sure.
We have got a question. If your library has consistent design guidelines, will the product of something like Pablo fit in? For instance, can I specify a particular font?
You can specify a particular font. I believe it's from the Google Fonts API, so you should be able to find an adjacent font to what you use in your style guidelines, serifed or unserifed. So think of things like Lobster and Merriweather that you might have seen on Canva. It's not going to be like your standard Microsoft fonts, but you can Google what's the Google API font to this font, and you'll find it. But yeah, they have like 50 fonts.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty fonty.
All right. Fonty. I love
Yeah,
that
they're all
word.
about that font life.
All about that font. About that font. Okay. Well, you have a link for all the sources that you talked about. Yes, we will. Again, we are all about providing value. We want you to be extraordinary. So we're going to put together an email with the links. Rachel, I'll get all that stuff from you so that you can be on your way, and then it's all in one place and really easy. All right, what if I don't produce a ton of content? So I know this is an issue. I know you are the content queen.
Yes.
So you like that. But for those that might be a little bit behind the 8 ball, we have an external content source. So you can pull in, do you use our external content source feed? I knew you produce so much content yourself. I wasn't sure if you had
I'm
tapped
looking
into
forward
that.
to the new feature where you can do a single
Oh, yes.
versus, marrying myself to a feed. I like the idea of adding single. I can absolutely see me sharing BuzzFeed quizzes
Got it.
via Circle.
In a
when
couple
that feature-
weeks, we are launching a new feature where you can just put in one featured email. We've got a lot of requests for that feature from people, so we are building that. That'll launch in a couple weeks. But yes, you can beef up your content. We have a lot of organizations use our external content source where you can pull in different industry blogs and industry news. Again, that can all be set to moderation so that nothing goes live until that you see it or want to edit it or what have you. But you can beef up your news source by that way if you struggle to produce content.
But you might not. You might be producing more content than you imagine you are. Even by virtue of having events, you could put those events in your circle with a simple copy and paste. You can add information on your circle as well as an update. So you're producing more than you realize. You just might not be thinking of it. You might be in this tower of content, imagining it's something that it's not. It's really, you are producing things. When you're making a book display, it's just as easy after you've made that beautiful book display to jot down those titles and put an update in your circle.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love those ideas. Could you explain a little bit about audience segments and circles and how to use them? Yes. So you can segment your audience in really any way that you like. And Circle gives you sort of the ability to say, all right, I want this to go to all of my teens, or exclusively to teens, or I want it to go to teens, and I don't care if everybody else sees it. So you can have an infinite amount of audience segments that we help you set up on the back end and get it customized towards where you are and how your library works. Circle sort of meets you where you are. So what if we have multiple branches? So you have multiple branches as well. You can put those as part of your onboarding. But all of your branches, again, we really meet your library where you are. If you want each branch to have their circle or have one circle, that's part of our engagement planning process where we really get you on the phone and talk about what would work for you to make your life easier. So Circle's been sliced and diced and can really roll any way that works for your organization.
So what she means by that is you could have different essentially email lists for each branch, or you could have one master one, or you could have one for employees. So there's a lot of different ways to approach that idea.
All right, I'm looking down here through the questions as they keep coming in. Does the content get archived? Do you want to talk about your content archive?
Yeah. So the content is archived on Circle as well as our website. We're WordPress. We just went to WordPress in September, and that marriage has been really beautiful, but I think that would be just as robust with the Drupal or any other thing that would have an RSS feed available. So the content archive, you can remove things from that feed. It's easy. You click the article, you hit delete, and it goes off the Circle. It will not get emailed out again. Or you can edit the things and update them, but they do automatically pull from that RSS feed. So it's constantly changing. It's like every 10 minutes, I want to say that if I put something new, it goes up there. If I put something new on my YouTube channel, it goes up there. So it's a really nice constant flow of information, and I can remove things. And things might pop up that were from, that are relevant to somebody that are evergreen. So it's not, as far as managing the content on the Circle side, I would say I probably spend less than a half an hour on it each week. Shh, don't tell anybody.
So you're getting behind you to make you look like a rock star.
I
So
know,
your executive director
but
would be like, what? The content archive also helps your SEO. So
It does.
That's going to help automatically for you. And if you're patrons, it could be another thing, again, that enhances your brand. If they missed something, they can go there and search for all the stories on sustainability, or if it's Earth Day month or whatever it would be. It's another value add that provides, that you can provide your patrons. So, all right, pricing. I knew we were going to get this question about the cost. I think you would be surprised at how affordable we are. We price. Our pricing structure is based on the number of active email addresses. So if you want a quote, feel free to email me, sarah@circle.com, and we'll give you a quote for that. We are very intentional about our pricing. Again, this is something that we've learned, again, when we have been talking to the Rachels of the world. People have been burned by pricing. I know on some platforms, they penalize you, it feels like, if you do grow your list. Yep. And that's what we're all about. So even if your list grows, we don't penalize. You can have as many segments, as many emails, as many of it as anything. That pricing is really locked in. It does not change, even if I don't know how many features we've added since you've hopped on. There's no upselling, there's no additional training cost. Again, we have a great process that acclimates you to our platform, but if I have to intensely train you, then we haven't built a platform that's easy enough for you to use on your own. So all of those things that you might be concerned about, we just operate differently, make it very, very easy. It's one price, it's locked in, and it doesn't matter if your list sort of grows. So,
and it's not all that nickel and diming that you get a lot of times with vendors, where they're trying to charge you for every time you make a phone call or send an email. It's not like that at all. It's very affordable.
All right. We are going to just open it up maybe for 20 more seconds of any last questions. I want to honor our time today and thank everyone. And thank you, Rachel, for hopping on board. I love the magic that we're creating together, and I hope we can do even more webinars like this. Really looking forward to everyone's feedback. If this was helpful, what other things did you really like? Do you want more of? And maybe we can do this again in the future and have our own magical show.
I like the idea of a podcast. I think we've got a lot here.
I know.
Engagement.
I would love that. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, this has been Rachel and Sarah helping you engage your audience like never before. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email Rachel. Feel free to email me, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with you. And again, helping you take all of those easy steps to transform your library and to really take that transformation and become the extraordinary library that you really are. Thanks so much.
Thank you.